Radio Raheem here with Stephen Espinoza. You've had so many things to do in these past years with huge fights coming to Showtime. Obviously, your business is putting the best fights in front of the fans on Showtime. We're here for Abner Morez and Cellular, and you say that this is one of these matchups where the best are fighting the best. Explain to me why you feel like this fight meets that standard.
Well, I think a couple reasons. One, it's two top 6 or 7 guys, depending on whose rankings you're looking at, but I think consensus across the board, these guys are 2 recognized top tier of their division, and it's a great style matchup. These guys are rarely in a boring fight. They're both aggressive, they're both fan-friendly, they both want to entertain, and the goal of this card, when you have it on CBS, is, to try to maybe convert some fans. Because it's on CBS, and they haven't done boxing in almost 40 years, at least in prime time they haven't. This is an opportunity to showcase the best that the sport has to offer, and this is what these 2 fights are. Thurman Porter and Cuellar Maris are 2 of the best fights this sport can offer.
The free boxing moniker has been one we've heard over the last year or so. Obviously, that's associated with Al Heyman and his effort to put fights like this on CBS and other networks, televisions. How has that impacted the sport? Do you feel like we've had enough time now to kind of know what the impact is? What do you think that impact is?
Well, it's not a bad thing. It's never a bad thing that 3 or 4 million people saw Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia or Deontay Wilder. In terms of long-term impact, it's still to be seen. But in terms of PBC's business, they've got plenty of smart guys over there. They know what they're doing, and I'll leave it to them. In terms of the impact on the sport, from my perspective, it's never a negative thing when you have guys like Deontay or Keith or Danny Garcia or Abner and Leo on ESPN even. That's always a positive thing when you get the kind of exposure they got for those fighters. It's definitely a plus.
You mentioned Deontay Wilder, WBC heavyweight champion of the world, has been getting a lot of fanfare recently, and he's traveling to Moscow to fight Povetkin for that title, or at least allow Povetkin a challenge for that title. But as the fight draws near, where are we going to see that fight? Is it a Showtime fight? What's happening here?
I think I'm very optimistic. We're getting very close. It's an event really that at least recently has no precedent. They haven't done an event of this size out of Moscow, certainly with the kind of involvement that a U.S. network would have. So it's a little bit of breaking new ground. It's not quite as simple as going to the O2 or going into Germany, as the Klitschko's have done over and over again. This is almost a first impression over there in some ways. So it's been a difficult process, but I think we're 10 days out from the fight. There's got to be an announcement very soon, and I'm optimistic. I think this will end up on Showtime. Just need to get the last couple of items figured out.
So you're saying that it's more of a technical challenge? It's not an interest issue?
No. It's we've been with Deontay for quite a while, and this will be his probably his toughest fight to date. So there's we obviously want to be involved in this, and it's everything from visas to technical challenges to getting the right personnel in country to converting the signals that come out there. So it's a variety of different issues. It's not quite as simple as going into a venue where everything else has. There's a lot of negotiation that has to do from both immigration to the business to the coordination with it. It is taking longer than we would have hoped, but I think we're pretty close to the end of the process now.
Well, you seem to be on the high end of the heavyweight title business right about now. 2 up-and-coming champions, really. You've just signed Anthony Joshua. That was a big deal for them. They made an announcement of it. And when that announcement was made, people were surprised that he's now going to be like an American television fighter. What are your plans for him, and what made you decide, this is the guy we're going to put our money on?
Well, we've had our eye on him for quite a while. I mean, he's got all the tools inside and out of the ring, and it just felt like the right time to make this commitment and get in business with him was after he won the world title. He's going to be stepping up his level of competition. He actually has been fighting, I think, a pretty aggressive line of opponents, given where he is in his career. But I think it's going to elevate pretty quickly, and he has names like Hay and Fury and Wilder on his list for the next 4 or 5 fights. So, you never know what happens over a fighter's career. I don't know if he's, the next coming of Muhammad Ali or something else. But he is entertaining. He's committed to developing quickly. He wants to fight in the U.S., and it seemed like an opportune time to get in business with him.
When it comes to these two guys, and Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, people like to compare them. They've had roughly the same amount of fights. Deontay's got a little bit more experience. They're both African-American, and they seem to be exciting style fighters. So when you look at the two of them, where do you think the most earning potential is? And with a fighter that has less than 20 fights and only one championship win, what made him, if you will, like the golden child? Like you put a lot of investment in a guy that's still a prospect to some degree.
Yeah, if you look at the two of them, they have different strengths. Deontay is probably a bigger personality outside of the ring, and he's got the bronze medal. But then Anthony's got a gold medal, and there's a premium for that. They're both articulate. They both look the part. They look like what a heavyweight world champion should look like. And in terms of making the commitment to Joshua, it was a point at which they wanted to expand into the U.S. They were looking for a partner, and better to, from our perspective, better to make the commitment, start working on the relationship now, than try to get in, when he's a superstar. So we're getting in on the ground floor and helping him develop in the U.S. market.
This could be a really early kind of super fight in the heavyweight division. Is that the kind of fight you guys are looking to push together soon? Or like how long, let me put it this way, how long do you feel it will take for Anthony Joshua to mature to the level where you feel it's a good fight for Wilder and Joshua to face each other, of course, on Showtime?
It feels like probably next year. If they both continue to win, obviously Joshua is going to be fighting on June 25th as well, same day as Thurman Porter and Cuellar Mars, and then I think he'll do one more fight in the fall, which very well could be his mandatory, the winner of Joseph Parker and Carlos Takam, which that might be the toughest fight of Joshua's career. I think beyond that, he's looking at names like Fury, Price, and Hay, or Fury, Hay, and Wilder. So, I think he and Eddie Hearn, his promoter, have decided that, it's time to really step up to the elite level. And so probably 2 more fights, and he'll be looking for those types of fights.
Now, I know that you get asked this question a lot, and you don't like to talk about it because it's one of these prospect may or may not happen kind of things, but obviously Floyd Mayweather is the premier boxer still. Even though he's out of the ring, right. He comments on fights, he teases us with possible matchups, right. So he might be teasing you guys with the same thing. Mm-hmm. What kind of discussions have you had with Floyd about a return? And if that were to happen in a perfect world, where do you see the number 50 matchup being the most ideal? Who's that opponent?
We've had a lot of conversation with him, and most of the conversations lately have been about promoting. He's been promoting his fighters. He's promoting the show on May 21 as well. But then, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't sneak in a question, every once in a while. And he teases us and he hints at coming back. But what he always follows it with, and he did in that TV interview on Showtime a couple weeks back, with a statement of, but I'm happily retired. So if you listen carefully what he says, he's basically saying, look, maybe this, maybe that, who knows? But right now I'm happily retired. So I don't spend too much time on it because until he says it with less conviction or until he says, maybe I'm not retired, that's when we can really step up and start spending time and energy on it. And
lastly, Steven, he says $100 million is what it's going to take for him to get back in the ring. He's mentioned so many different things that would require to make his appetite wet enough. How much is Showtime willing to put on the table for Floyd Mayweather to do number 50 at Showtime Sports?
I think it really, I'm not sure that it's a financial decision because, Floyd has gotten plenty of money over his career. And I don't think he'd come back for money. I mean, certainly if someone put 9 figures on the table, then it's hard for anybody to not come back. But I think really what he's looking for is a challenge, and what kind of challenge that is, if that's Conor McGregor, if it's Danny Garcia, if it's Pacquiao rematch, I think that's what's going to intrigue him at the end of the day, because when you're doing well financially, money doesn't always continue to be the number one motivator.
Would you put that McGregor-Mayweather fight on? You think that's a real, that seems almost like a circus.
It is a little bit of a circus, but again, if people want to see it, then it's our job to help it come to fruition. People wanted to see Mayweather-Pacquiao, and we finally brought it to them. If they want to see Mayweather-McGregor, and there seems to be some interest, then it might be something we need to spend some time on.
Steven Espinoza, thank you for the time. I appreciate the answers.
Anytime.
Radio Raheem with Steven Espinoza of Showtime.